Now, before I get to my list of 10 things I think we need to see in either episode 8 or 9, let me first say there will be a couple things noticeably absent from this list, mainly learning more about Rey and Snoke, because I know without a doubt we're going to get more about those two in these next two movies. Everything on this list, more or less, are things that we may or may not see, but I certainly think we need to. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Number 10, a twist that nobody has seen coming. Now, before you ask what I think that twist should be, the point is it should be something that neither I or anybody else has even begun to guess at. What made Vader's reveal to Luke in Empire Strikes Back so great, about being his father of course, is that no one was expecting a twist, least of all one like that. Now the problem this time around is I think we're all expecting some type of twist, so whatever it is has to be something completely unexpected to wow all of us. Number 9, Phasma needs to do something. After making her practically the face of the marketing campaign leading up to Episode 7, I think we were all disappointed that Phasma did pretty much nothing in the movie, other than immediately betraying the First Order when her life was threatened by lowering the shields to Starkiller Base. Though I guess it could be argued she did have great confidence in her troops and that's why she did it. Now, unless she was really meant to just do nothing more than sell toys, t-shirts, and coffee mugs, let's see her become a legitimate adversary to our heroes in these next two movies. Number 8, a massive space battle. Now, the recent space battle above the planet Scarif in Rogue One, in my opinion, was probably the best we've seen since the assault on the second Death Star in Return of the Jedi, though I don't think it topped it. Even being over 30 years old now, the scope and feel of that battle has yet to be surpassed. And though the scale of that battle at the start of Episode 3 was massive, it did feel a bit too CGI in my opinion. So I'm really hoping, probably in Episode 9, that we get a huge scale battle between what's left of the New Republic fleet and the Resistance versus the First Order. And this will also be a chance to show just how powerful the First Order is, which I don't think we really got a good sense of in the first movie. Number 7, more history and lore. One of my favorite scenes in the prequel trilogy was from Episode 3 where Palpatine tells Anakin about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. What was great about that scene was it was pretty much the first time in any of the Saga movies that we got any mention of past events, other than Obi-Wan briefly mentioning the Clone Wars in Episode 4, which of course have now been fully fleshed out thanks to the prequel trilogy and the Clone Wars animated series. Now, in one of these next two episodes, I'd love to see some real history about the Jedi Order or maybe even about the Force itself. I mean, don't take us to the first Jedi Temple and then tell us nothing about those first Jedi. And no, I don't expect or want them to bog down the story with a big history lesson, but just a little bit would go a long way to adding some more depth to that long-running fight of good versus evil that Maz Kanata spoke of in Episode 7. And yes, I realize there's plenty of history to be had in the old EU, but I'm ready to see what direction the new canon will go in terms of history and how it may start to differ from how things used to be. Number 6, where is Lando? Episode 7 saw the return of a lot of familiar faces, but the most notably absent was no doubt Lando Calrissian, which is odd because it sounds like Billy D. Williams is all for reprising his role. He even weighed in recently on the casting of Donald Glover as the new Lando in the upcoming anthology movie, as I like to call it, saying he couldn't imagine anyone else playing Lando, which shows just how much he cares about the character still. He recently has softened on the stance and now thinks Glover will do a fine job, but what we really need to see is the original Lando back in action one more time in this new trilogy. Recently in the book Aftermath Empire's End, we've learned that Lando has gone back to Cloud City after helping remove a small force of Imperials that were still holding it after the Battle of Endor, likely the same garrison Vader left there during The Empire Strikes Back. So at the very least, let's get a scene where some of our heroes stop at Cloud City and meet with Lando, and maybe even recruit him for one last mission. I'd also love to see how he reacts to the news that his longtime friend Han Solo has been killed by his son. Number 5, Dark Side Training. Now, in the Clone Wars animated series, we did get to see a little bit of how Sith train their apprentices when we saw Dooku training Savage Opress for an episode, and it mostly centered on making him frustrated and angry so that he could learn how to tap into his emotions and make him stronger in the dark side. But I would love if this next movie, Episode 8 of course, shows the contrast between how Darksiders are trained and how Lightsiders are trained, by getting looks at both Luke training Rey and Snoke training Kylo Ren. I would also love if we're showing that Kylo Ren is only beginning to scratch the surface of his potential, and that we also start to see just how powerful Snoke is, that he is a legitimate threat on par with Palpatine, if not a greater one. Number 4, Luke gets his own corridor scene. What in the world do I mean by that? Well, just like Vader finally got to show off for us at the end of Rogue One, I'd love to get a similar scene for Luke. Obviously, he doesn't have to go on a killing spree like Vader did, but instead give us something that shows, as George Lucas once said of him, that Luke has become the most powerful Jedi ever. Now, I wouldn't want him to go too over the top with it, so much so that we wonder why he just doesn't go find Snoke and squash him like a bug, because that's how powerful he seems to be, but let him have a truly memorable display of his powers at some point in these movies. Maybe he'll even do something incredible to save Rey's life, because he refuses to lose another student. Number 3, Luke versus Kylo Ren. Now, if this duel doesn't happen in one of these next two movies, I'd be shocked and beyond disappointed, as I'm sure you will be too. This could even go along with my previous two entries on this list, because perhaps we'll get to see Kylo Ren be trained and see how powerful he's becoming under Snoke's teachings, but when he challenges Luke, he is simply no match for him, which will give Luke a chance to show just how powerful he's become. Kylo will be throwing everything he's got at him, while Luke is lazily dealing with his attacks, all the while trying to talk some sense into him and turn him back to the light. One way or another, this is a great chance for a truly emotional confrontation, and one where I think we'll all be wondering, how is this going to end while we're watching it? Number 2, Luke speaking with Anakin's Force Ghost. Say what you will about Hayden Christensen's portrayal of Anakin Skywalker in the prequel trilogy, or even if it should be him standing there at the end of the Return of the Jedi and not Sebastian Shaw anymore, the actor who originally portrayed Anakin. But a scene between father and son could be one of the most powerful we've seen yet in Star Wars, if done right, of course. I mean, how great would it be if Luke refuses to train Rey when she shows up on the island, and it's actually his father who convinces him to get back on the horse, if you will, and start training Jedi again? What if Anakin is the one that saves Luke from the darkness this time? And I'm not implying that Luke may be on the verge of going to the dark side. All I'm saying is it's very possible he's just not in a good place right now mentally after how much he's lost. I personally think it would be great to see Anakin again and to give Hayden Christensen another chance to play him. Now, I've only loosely put the previous 9 entries in order of what I'd personally like to see the most, but number 1 is something that truly is the number 1 thing that I hope beyond hope we get to see in one of these next 2 movies, and that would be a scene where Luke and Leia reunite. Now, obviously the sudden passing of Carrie Fisher has altered their plans for this trilogy, but I'd have to imagine that at some point in one of these next 2 movies, the Skywalker twins were destined to meet again, and I hope that a scene has already been filmed that gets to show us what happens when these two meet again. I mean, I was already disappointed that we didn't get one last scene between Han and Luke in Episode 7, though I suppose we could still get one in a flashback, if they can convince Harrison Ford to do it, of course. But this is something completely different, because Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher were not just brother and sister in Star Wars, but they were like that in real life as well. I don't think there could be any better tribute to Carrie Fisher, or treat for us Star Wars fans, not the least of which would be Mark Hamill himself, than to see these two together on screen one last time. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it's your turn to let me know what I've missed, and what are the things you think need to be seen in Episode 8 or 9. So leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. Also, please subscribe to my channel or check out some of my other videos. If you're already a subscriber, then thanks for your continued support. If you want to know when I upload new videos, either hit the notification button or just follow me on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching.